I haven't been able to get one of those little puppies for 20 years, and it's a service they have to render, but I haven't been able to get one for a very long time. But what I can do is I can go down here to Travis County to Dana de Beauvoir and say, you have filed a lien that doesn't meet the Federal Lien Registration Act. It's a pretty simple act. It's been adopted in most of the states. And it says that the notice of federal lien is certified. None of these are certified. And they get it faxed in, and they only charge $10 to record it. Right now in Texas, I think it's either $26 or $32 for the first page to record. The IRS gets a deal to encumber your life. They get it at a third the price, and it's illegal. And so what we'll do with the pressure is go to the recorders or the clerks and say, get that shit out of public record. Then the IRS has no way to go to an employer or a bank and show them a copy of this notice of federal tax lien, which has been filed in a county.
Which is fraudulent.
Which is fraudulent, and they have no power.
You know, it's really pretty simple. It seems like with people, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it doesn't have to have guns and
I just
ammo.
need 1,000 people to help me go down to Dana de Beauvoir and tell her I'm either going to punt you out of here or you're going to get this off the record.
Well, we should put this up, and we should send this out to people in Austin, and then let it spread from city to city.
Put it out any place you want to, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's the power that the IRS has after they have recorded it in the people's public records.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no other way to steal.
Well, boy, find that one. That's great. That's great research to find that out, Dessie.
Well, it's always been there. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but-
just forgot to use it.
I have never heard of anything like that
Well, you
before.
had an easier way. Send them $30 and say, send me this.
Yeah, well, that's gone. But you see, people have to believe. In my book, I talk about South Pacific. The song that's one of my favorite songs, You Have to Be Taught to Fear.
That's a song in South Pacific?
Mhm.
I don't remember that song.
It's you have to be taught
Sing it
to
for
be
me.
afraid. You have to be taught to fear. People
Wow.
of other color. I've got the lyrics in the book.
I bet Hamilton
You
knows
have
those
to be
lyrics.
carefully taught.
Carefully
it's in
taught
there.
to be afraid. That's very
Great adverb
interesting.
for it.
Yeah, I'd sing it, but then you'd throw rocks at me. But yeah, it's always been, ever since I first heard that, I thought, because I wasn't raised in fear or with fear, and when I first heard that, I thought, who would fall for fear? Well, almost every single person I've ever touched has fallen for fear.
Well, yeah, you know, and I was thinking the other day that there's so much, that there's a lot of people, when I look at Facebook, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but the conversation has changed quite a bit. There's a lot of people that used to be really big Bernie supporters who are now starting to realize a little more how the things are operating and what a facade all this stuff is. It's the hard part that I have seen is that I think there's so many people that have fear so deep inside of them and denial that there's anything going on, that not only affects, you know, getting people to move in to believe something different, because there's so much of that in the way, but it also is going to affect really their health in the long run. Because if they're going to be in denial about something out there, they're actually in denial about things that are inside as well.
Well, people are in denial because really our education is so lacking. They have no firmament.
Yeah.
They have, you know, I
It's all
used to
feelings.
be friends with a psychiatrist. He was the best I've ever seen. And I said, what about these people that go on the couch and talk about all their fears, you know, psychoanalysis? And he said, well, what happens with psychoanalysis is the people go in with a problem, and the psychiatrist spends all this time tearing down all their beliefs. They take them back. Well, did your mother change your diaper often enough when you were 2? They take them back and they strip out everything. So now the people that went in, that some had maybe a pebble that their life was based on, now it has been turned to sand. So when they start to rebuild the person's ego or problems or whatever, which never happens, they're building on sand rather than on the rock. So if you have a rock, a belief, a system a moral compass code ethics, that's your rock. And when you build on that rock, even if you get frightened by something, when you go back to the education, somebody shows you, well, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true.
That's a good
Then
analogy.
you can fall back on your rock and then build from there.
That's
But
a good analogy.
we have no education.
We don't
As-
have any foundation anymore.
Who wrote that most famous book? There's more than one, but there's one that's known better than any of them, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America.
That was Charlotte Iserbit Thompson.
Yeah, I never can remember that
Or
name.
Charlotte Thompson Iserbit. Charlotte Iserbit.
I can understand why.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I already forgot it.
I want to go get that book for
Well,
you before you run away.
Well,
She's gonna be here for a while.
everybody dumbs down. I mean, everybody's been dumbed down. It's a deliberate thing. We have to be taught not only to fear, we have to be taught stupidity. Again, I was last night at this meeting, and I said, how many in here fill out 1040 taxes every year? Of course, everybody does, but me. And one guy that never has, he was there, and the feds charged him with tax evasion, and they had to let him go because he had never, ever filed, and they can't do that because he'd never signed. You know, they're invisible tracts that they feel incongruous, but we have to believe they don't. We have to believe that there's God, there's us, and then there's the government. We have to learn to believe that. So I said, what does it say? I don't know. So you're filling out a form that you're giving part of your money, part of what you earned, to somebody you don't know who the hell it is, and they don't know what the label on it is. U.S. individual tax return. And I said, who are you returning it to? You must have gotten something from somebody in order to return it. What did you get that you're returning? Huh?
Yeah.
And are you a U.S. individual? Well, is that the same as a U.S. citizen? I said, I don't know, because I'm neither. But are you a U.S. individual? Well, I don't know. What does it mean? I said, exactly. You're filling out a form that's returning something that you never got in the first place, and you're calling yourself whatever this thing is, you don't know what it is. Why would you do that?
It's been taught. They taught stupidity well. I mean, they really have.
Okay, I think we got to take you out of politics and put you as a stand-up comedian.
Come on! I mean, why would you do that?
I mean, that's really true. I mean, it's true when you start looking at it like that. It's like, what sort of idiocy is it really? Because they just play these games on us all the time, and we just follow.
You recently got some forms because they want part of your money, and it says rendition form. And all I know about rendition is, in the Bible it says, render unto Caesar what's Caesar's. Well, I don't know any Caesar, and I ain't rendering nothing. So, I mean, you know, why would I render part of my property to some dude I don't even know who it is? All I know it's the damn county commissioner's court that take my money and spend it.
Yeah, with no oath or bond.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with no oath of office, they've never entered the public trust.
Yeah.
So, people have to believe that they can have their own beliefs. People have to be just a tad bit more educated. And it's just like anything else. If you have no self-esteem and somebody helps you, and you couldn't jump 2 feet, and all of a sudden one day you practice and you jump 3 feet, you get a sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit of sense of belief. Your self-esteem goes up just a tad.
Mm-hmm.
So I want so badly to have people get self-esteem and belief in their unalienable rights. Can't be leaned, can't be taken, can't be ditched. You cannot turn your right into a privilege.
Well, that is really the most important message that I see that we have to get out there, because what's out there now is, oh, let's just run down and vote. You know, they don't even talk about who they're voting for.
Number one,
It's
let me
like
ask you.
let's like the big cow herd is going down to pull the little levers and vote, and it's just a bunch of cattle.
Has anybody ever changed any policy by voting?
No, and that's what's so stupid is they put their time and energy into Bernie Sanders or Hillary or whoever who's a career politician who have shown clearly by just looking at their record where they're taking us. And people are still
hell
too
do we need with
stupid.
career politicians.
Yeah, and but they're still too stupid to say last year they said this, and I mean Obama's hope and change. Bernie's got the same kind of message, hope and change, only it's got a few different words in it. It's like, well, what's wrong with you people? You just heard that before. You heard that before. You heard that before. It's always the same banter, and they continue to run down in like a
It's
herd
because
of pigs.
they don't know. They've been taught that it's your duty, it's your right
Yeah.
to vote. They have
Uh,
been taught that and taught that and taught that, and it's crowd mentality. It works
It is.
beautifully, and
Exactly.
nobody has ever. It's just like
And
you
that's the
you have
problem.
Never, you can't take out your checkbook, and no matter how much you spend, you can't spend yourself into wealth.
No.
Well, you can't vote yourself into freedom.
No.
The only one that can get freedom is you, and you,
Yeah.
and me. And it's by God time that we stood up and we took it, man by woman by woman by man.
Yeah.
We stood up and we said, no more,
Yeah.
no more.
That's right. We have to, and I hope that a lot of the left-leaning people can begin to understand.
Forget left leaning. Take away labels. That's
Yeah.
That's another belief.
That's part of
I
the
don't believe
belief.
in that.
Well, there is different mindsets.
I just believe that people are undereducated. They want change. They're dying for change. They commit themselves to some speech, some thought, something in the hope that it will change. I don't
Yeah.
care if they're left, they're right, they're up, they're down.
Well, yeah, I agree with you there.
That's what's happened.
I agree. I just see it as like kind of clumps of people, like little herds of, like tribes of people that are of more belief structures
Of
than
course,
others.
but how about we say, hey,
Let's pull it together and
let me show you how that works. Let me show you what the law is. Let me show you what we can do. And if you help
Yeah.
me and I help you,
that's a
can
good
get
that's a
what you
good
want.
intention. That's
we
a
can
good
get
intention.
Your property, the right to own property. We can get your property. We can get your freedom, and you can keep every
Everything
damn
you
dime
earn.
that you earn
Yeah.
for yourself, your progeny, your grandkids.
But who would pay for the roads?
Okay, I'll go into how this country was supposed to pay for
I'll sit in
itself.
here. Yeah. Yeah, how did this country? I'll sit till he comes
In the
back.
beginning, when they set up the United States of America, the Articles of Confederation was the compact between the colonies, but it wasn't sufficient. That's why they said in order to make a more perfect nation, okay, they had to have a currency that was common, and they had to have some way to support the government
Yeah.
that they were setting up. They set aside less than 10-mile square area from Virginia and Maryland, called the District of Columbia. That is the seat of the United States government. It's not here in Texas.
Yeah.
That's the seat. They had to have some way to pay the people that were going to work for the government or in the government. So, most of the people that went once a year, at least one day in Monday and in December, at least once a year, to see what was happening in the way the government was running, were volunteers. They were patriots. It was their duty to give their time to the country. But the people that actually were there, the staff, were paid by when it was set up, when the United States of America was set up, the ports along the East Coast in Louisiana were ceded by the states to the federal government. They belonged to the federal government. At the ports, the federal government set up internal revenue collectors and the staff to protect them. They would go aboard a ship that wanted to bring its goods into the United States. There were tariffs that had been placed. They went aboard the ship, they assessed, they counted everything, they inventoried and assessed the amount that they owed in taxes to the federal government in order to come into the United
So
States.
it's just through commerce.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
It was by people who wanted to do trade. It was the treaties. We had
Yeah.
treaties with these countries,
Yeah.
and the people that wanted to bring their goods to the United States to trade had to pay the duties, the tariffs on the products they wanted to sell.
Yeah.
That's what was set up to take care of the country.
And that works.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked, and there was no debt. So how did we get away from there? Oh, I know. We had 4 cabinet departments under George Washington. Now we have 15, and every one of those 15 has agency after agency
Yeah.
after agency. And we have all these people. Now we have more people in the government taking the money than we have paying. So even if we paid income taxes, we don't have enough money to pay all these people. There are too many of them.
Yeah.
They outnumber us.
They
What
do,
the
yeah.
hell are we doing?
Well, we're going under a really crazy system, and people are blind and just keep on supporting more of it.
I maintain, I don't call them, I don't label them, and I don't call them sheep, and I don't put down my fellow man, because I
Mhm.
believe in people, and I believe they're resourceful.
Well, yeah, and ultimately I do too, but the way I see things is right now they're behaving like sheep, and they're behaving like
Because
idiots.
they're behaving the way they have been taught
Yeah.
to believe.
And so the hard part, though, from what I'm oftentimes do, is it's really hard to get them to pull out of that. It's really hard.
It's the Hegelian doctrine. It's
Yeah.
very effective. They create a problem, they get the problem going, people become aware of the problem, then they create a solution.
Yeah.
And every time that happens, we get further and further away from our
The real, yeah.
our rights, and we get further and further into debt. And
Yeah, that's the story.
I love my grandkids. I don't want to saddle them with this bullshit.
Oh, I'm frightened that the direction that this country's going with all this, letting everybody come here and then expect us to pay for it. Just this whole mess. We've got to get this back to.
We have allowed Congress to run all of our production offshore. Congress decided that it would be good if we didn't any longer have any infrastructure in production and, making things, manufacturing. So they made it. They put taxes on if you stayed in this country and kept running it. They regulated and taxed you out of to go offshore.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know.
Congress is the one that drove our industries
yeah,
offshore.
I'm aware of that. Yeah, they did. They did.
And people say, what happened to my job?
Well, yeah, and then that's one thing that I know.
Congress.